So hopefully last night you gave a little bit of thought to what factor affecting plant growth you might want to design your experiment around today. Okay, so the expectation for your lab design is going to be as follows. A problem. Right? So you have to come up with a problem, like what is the effect of light on plant growth, but obviously a little more in depth than that. Okay? So whatever your factor is going to be, that's your problem. Okay? Then you've got to have your variables identified and explained, same as you would in any other lab, right? If I'm doing a lab where I'm, investigating the effect of light exposure on plants, then my manipulated variable is the amount of light the plants receive. How many manipulated variables can I have? One. All right? You can only test one thing at a time. I cannot test the amount of light a plant receives and the color it receives, because I will never know which one of those things causes the change in the plant growth. Okay? One manipulated variable only, please. Your responding variable, it's the same for everybody. The growth of the plant. Now, in that, I would explain what you are using as a determiner of growth. How are you measuring growth? Okay, so when you're talking about your responding variable being the growth of the plant, you would say the growth of the plant is the responding variable as measured by. Okay, talk about what type of things you're going to be observing, okay, in terms of the growth of the plant. And that can be things like you're going to take pictures of all the plants, you're going to measure their height, you're going to take their mass, whatever. Okay, whatever you consider to be, okay, your measure of growth is what you need to put on there for your responding variable. Your controlled variables, okay? Now, there need to be 3 explained, right? But there's probably more than that. You only need to put down 3, but there's probably more than that. And that's something you're going to deal with in your procedure. Okay? When you're writing out the procedure, a lot of your procedure is going to be related to how you're controlling the other factors that affect plant growth. All right, if I'm doing my experiment on the amount of light a plant receives, I need to make sure that I'm controlling the other things, like what kind of plants they are. I can't test exposure to light on a carrot, a turnip, and a pumpkin. Okay, they're different plants. They grow at different rates. I have no basis for comparison. Okay, so I need to make sure I'm controlling all the other factors that affect plant growth. And so you'll need to mention that in your procedure. So you're talking about how you're setting up the experiment. You talk about, that you're putting these things in a pot and but I have one kid waiting outside, so maybe I just have one. So you're going to be needing to think about that in your procedure. But I'm setting up this lab, and it's going to be, I'm going to put this much soil in each pot. I'm going to, do this, I'm going to do that. Make sure in your procedure you're addressing all the other factors. That's what I'm really going to be looking for. Okay? You're also going to need to come up with a hypothesis. Okay? You guys are good at that now, so the if part is going to talk about what affects it's basically going to talk about your manipulated variable. If this affects plant growth, and talk about your experiment briefly, then what are your results going to be? Just predict them. Okay? Plants receiving more light will grow more. Okay, well, a little more detail than that, obviously. Okay? Everyone kind of follow what we're looking for there? Yes? Okay, then you'll have a materials list. Okay, just write down some things you think you would need. Plants, dirt, pots, water. Okay, simple things. You're running an experiment on plant growth after all. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Then your procedure after that. Okay, everybody with me there? All right, sorry, I skipped one thing. That's the abstract. Okay, so your abstract is like an introductory paragraph, but it's only going to need to be like 2 or 3 sentences. Okay, all you do in an abstract is like a sales pitch. Okay, you're telling people what you can get from your experiment, what you're going to learn from your experiment. Okay, because in real research, the only way to get the money for the research is to sell it. Okay, so when people are doing research on, like making new allergy medications, they have to get money from big pharma in order to fund their research. Okay, so they have to sell it. Say, hey, you know what? I understand there's these weird receptors in the nasal cavities that trigger sneezing, and I know that this compound here can help to deaden nerve endings. I'm thinking if I put that in a drug, people won't sneeze because the nerve endings won't be triggered, and they'll be like, oh, that sounds good. Okay, here's $1 million. Do your research. Well, probably not that much, but whatever. Okay, that's kind of, unfortunately, science is business. okay, in the real world. So your abstract just needs to say something like, I understand that light affects plants in this way, and if I can figure out exactly what the ideal amount of light is, then that could allow agriculture industries to grow more food or something like that. Okay, so like 3 sentences, that's basically it. Okay, any questions on what we're doing? Okay, I tried to be as quick as possible, so you have an hour and 10 minutes to get this done. Okay, I will expect that it's done by the end of the class.